Disney has made some pretty good and some rather questionable sequels to their animated classic movies, but they've never directly continued Pinocchio's story, so Filmation said, don't worry, we'll do it for you!
Love is the light inside your heart when you stumble in the dark.
So, like a Snow White Christmas before it and Happily Ever After it, Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night is another pseudo-Disney sequel. This is when Filmation was really giving it their all, though, as Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night was a theatrical movie. So, they moved beyond the stiffer stock animation tactics that they usually employed in things like Star Trek the Animated Series and, of course, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And the animation really does look pretty nice in this movie for the most part. There were some complaints back when it was released that it wasn't really above Saturday morning cartoons, but I don't really think that's fair. It's not quite Disney or anything, but the animation definitely has more budget to it than a lot of the cartoon series around that time. They also got some names in here like James Earl Jones as the titular Emperor of the Night, Don Knotts as the Jiminy Cricket replacement bug G. Willikers. Can't wait for the next Pinocchio bug, pal. Holy shit. Obviously that'll be a dung beetle. Ed Asner as Waboo, Sylvester J. Scallywag. Frank Welker, who shockingly played more than one character, Igor, and the Mayor of Bugsburg. Tom Bosley was Geppetto, and kinda interesting casting was singer Ricky Lee Jones as the Blue Fairy. She barely did any voice acting outside of this, but she did have a pretty neat voice for the Blue Fairy.
Freedom is something that you earn day by day, so don't throw it away.
Kinda funny too, voicing Pinocchio was Scott Grimes, who's best known for almost being Wesley's friend on TNG. Or maybe Gordon Malloy in Orville. So, you might be wondering why in 1987 did Filmation try and cash in on Disney's Pinocchio? Well, Disney's Pinocchio just had a re-release in theaters in '84 and then a very successful home video release the next year. So Filmation said, let's make a sequel to that! But not really, but it's okay if people sorta think it is. Of course, legally, this was a sequel to Carlo Collodi's original version of the story, but Disney still wasn't having it and sued Filmation for copyright infringement. However, Filmation had stayed legally distinct enough with their version so that Disney ended up taking the L on that one. While there are some similar characters in Filmation's take, it is still, of course, based on Pinocchio, which Disney doesn't own. Really, Filmation even stayed away from quite a few characters from the original story that they really wouldn't have had to, like the Cricket, Manjafuko, and the Fox and the Cat. But perhaps they did that to try and avoid the Disney suit, which ended up happening anyway. Filmation might have also avoided those characters as well, since Disney had their own names for all of those characters, which of course Filmation wouldn't have been able to use, and they wanted to keep the connection as muddy as they could to the Disney one. The silly thing about this, though, is I think trying to have a murky connection to the Disney one hurt a lot more than it helped. Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night bombed at the box office, only pulling in $3 million off a $10 million budget. And I have to imagine it was kind of alienating to some people going in thinking that this had anything to do with Disney's version, only to find themselves watching a continuation of Pinocchio that mostly has its own continuity going on, but never actually had a first part to it. Filmation really might as well have made their own Pinocchio incarnation from the start. Which, really, it seems like they wanted to do anyway, as a lot of beats in Emperor of the Night are just copied straight from the original story. And that's what everyone says is the best kind of sequel, right? One that basically does the first story again? Now, unfortunately, this movie only got a not very great quality VHS release as far as home video went. But luckily, it has been released on some streaming sites like Prime and Tubi, which gave it to us in a clear DVD quality standard definition. We know it was in HD though, since it was in theaters, but who knows if we'll ever see that released. This movie starts off with what we've all been waiting for. Monterey Jack meets a bumblebee meets the fuck. This is Grumblebee. Grumblebee? That makes me angry, Grumble Grumble! This is also the original Grumblebee, I guess, since there were a few after him. Grumblebee has a boat ruinous sleep which lets out, a monster from Silent Hill? There are some pretty messed up dark parts in this movie, and those are the parts I largely like. This seemingly pretty weird shit going on is just a carnival setting itself up. Should have figured, right?
It's perfect.
Yes, a perfect spot for the carnival.
It's true. Everyone loves a good old swamp carnival.
Impressive. Most impressive.
I can't wait to see the look on his face. Happy birthday, Pinocchio.
Gee willikers!
It's the classic Pinocchio catchphrase. Gee willikers!
Gee willikers! I didn't know I had a birthday.
Well, you've been a real live boy for a year now, and real children have birthdays every year.
You weren't worth celebrating when you were a stupid fake wood boy.
And you can't have a birthday without having a party.
I've invited all your friends. You're a loser, Pinocchio. You always were.
Don't worry, Alouette. There's one for you, too.
Oh, never mind. It's not a completely empty party. I forgot about Pinocchio's good friend, the bird. There's no cricket or even a mention of the cricket. I guess we have to assume he met his end when Pinocchio threw a hammer at him like in the original story. See, things like this are what makes it a bit confusing when this is a sequel to nothing, technically.
I wish my fairy godmother was here.
Fairy godmother? Don't you mean...
Blue fairy! Blue fairy! Blue fairy! Blue fairy! Blue fairy! Whoa! Blue fairy! Fairy!
Well, while the fairy with the turquoise hair is of course present in the original tale, Disney called her the Blue Fairy. So again, to likely try and avoid the issue and not rename her, she just gets called the Fairy Godmother.
Would you like some cake?
Thank you, Geppetto. I can only stay a moment.
What are you busy with? Faking your death again?
She died of grief because of Pinocchio. Be alive, fairy! Be alive! Be alive!
I'm proud of you, Pinocchio.
But only proud enough to stay for a couple of minutes.
I made that myself.
He almost looks alive.
If he were alive, he could be a conscience for you.
A legally distinct conscience.
When you became a real boy, Pinocchio, you were given a special gift, freedom.
You're a mean one, Mr. Pinocchio. You really don't deserve your freedom.
Hey, who are you, Big Daddy?
But then the Blue Fairy's heart grew 3 sizes and exploded, so she didn't have to care anymore and could duck out of this lame party.
If you take your freedom for granted, you might lose it. You might even become a puppet again.
Because we don't just want to do the story of Pinocchio, the normal boy.
Who could turn me back into a puppet?
I really must go now. Happy birthday.
I can't be bothered to stay 10 more seconds to explain that. Happy birthday, Pinocchio!
Enjoy your present.
What present?
Always remember, freedom of choice.
This I don't have time to explain anything exit sure is taking a while. Geppetto has made a jewel box for the mayor, which Pinocchio offers to deliver. And just like him getting distracted on the way to school by Mangiafuco/Stromboli's puppet show in the original, here he gets distracted by the evil carnival.
And just where do you think you're going?
That's right. Let your carving of a water bug brought to life by a fairy who gave no thoughts about playing God be your guide.
You're alive?
That's right. I'm your birthday present.
Return to sender.
What's your name?
You should name me.
Me? Gee Willikers!
You got a nice ring to it. Willikers it is.
Well, Jiminy Cricket, I can't believe he named them G. Willikers.
Everyone's a winner in Scalawag's famous three-shell game.
Look, I got a cameo for my crooked game. It's Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. Impressed? Nah. Scallywag and Igor, not Igor, Igor, sloppily rig their game and steal from the crowd, then shoot themselves into Pinocchio so that they can trick him. You know, sort of like a fox and cat did before, but it's different because it's a raccoon and a monkey.
Boy, I sure do fall for the same thing over and over.
My colleague, Igor.
That sound effect seemed kind of familiar. So, the raccoon and monkey trick Pinocchio into trading the jewel box for a ruby, which of course turns out to be a fake!
You did what?
Sometimes I think it was easier being a puppet.
Now, let's not get carried away.
Of course, I'm a puppet, sort of, and I don't know what it's like actually being alive, and I never will. Pinocchio decides to run away from home again, I guess, and join the carnival, where you'll never guess what he sees, a marionette show. I sure am glad that this is a sequel so they could do something different with Pinocchio.
New York to Paris, London to Rome.
I have plenty of strength to hold me down.
I just died inside watching this.
She's beautiful.
I'd say getting turned on by a piece of wood is a little strange, but I suppose in this case it's Pinocchio recalling his roots.
Poor Twinkle. I don't ever want to be a puppet again.
That'd be repetitive, so it'll happen for sure.
The lovely Twinkle. And I am Puppet Tino.
Now, seeing as Pinocchio has already dealt with Mangiafuco or Stromboli or whoever, naturally he's wise to Puppetino and his tricks. Nah, just kidding. Pinocchio's just Sisyphus in this story and doomed to do the same thing over and over again.
You look a lot like a puppet I saw once. Name was Pistachio.
I'm not a puppet anymore. My fairy godmother turned me into a real boy.
Yeah, maybe not every weirdo you meet needs to know that, Pinocchio.
Twinkle was hoping you might dance with her.
Pinocchio.
Is Puppetino doing Twinkle's voice? She doesn't talk on her own yet, so what's the kayfabe on that?
You have all the makings of a big star.
This would be amazing for my act. A normal boy.
So, because Pinocchio horny, he gets lured in by Puppetino, which causes him to start to turn back into a puppet for some reason.
Wait! I want to stop! Please!
Truly, I expected better out of Puppetino. I guess Puppetino's magic organ grinder is turning Pinocchio back into a puppet, even though it started happening before Puppetino started cranking off over there, so I don't know.
You'll stop when I want you to, just like the rest of my puppets.
Is this insinuating that all of Puppetino's puppets used to be alive and he turned them? Well, it would sort of seem that way, but later on they contradict this. Is anyone still at the carnival? Like, it just completely cleared out into a ghost town the moment Puppetino was done Twinkle's song?
Boy, I sure do love the part of the show where he turns people into puppets.
You'll be coming with us.
Now he's a normal puppet. What a show stealer.
guess I showed that basket who's boss.
Shut up. Jiminy Willikers then has to save Grumblebee from some spiders for the team-up of the century. This was a pairing that Filmation felt strongly enough about that despite this film's poor initial reception, they were going to do a spin-off series called Bugsburg starring them, where they did such great bits as the old cartoon horny wolf howl.
I'll bet she's got her bugly cousin with her.
It's kind of hard to believe that's real, or at least almost was.
Grumblebee's the name. Lieutenant Grumblebee.
Maybe you could give me a lift to the carnival. Oh my gosh, Pinocchio, you poor dummy.
You have had and so enough.
G. Willikers almost kills himself trying to get Pinocchio down. Then the unhelpful fairy finally shows up who could have prevented this whole thing had she just answered Pinocchio's question earlier.
You took your freedom for granted, Pinocchio, and because you did, you lost it.
If he's not free to make his own choices, it's not really freedom then though, is it? Blue Fairy casts Life 2 on Pinocchio, but doesn't cure his status ailment of puppet, so they can still do the old nose-growing gag.
Why aren't you home in bed?
Coming towards me through the moonlight was a band of pirates. I'm sorry, Fairy Godmother. I wasn't telling the truth.
Oh, really?
Getting real sick of your shit, Wood Boy.
After that bit of, hey, remember the nose thing? The fairy turns Pinocchio human again and says, that was pointless. Bye!
Bye, Twinkle. Maybe someday I can find a way to make you free, too.
Stop stroking the puppet, you creep! And was Tinkle alive before? Why did the fairy leave her to her wooden fate? She's not as cool as Liar Boy?
I'm gonna get Father's jewel box back. You can go home and tell Father not to worry.
The fairy left your brain wood, didn't she, Pinocchio? Now, tell me if you've heard this one before. Geppetto realizes Pinocchio's missing, so he heads off to ineffectually find him and ends up getting caught instead. Good thing this is a sequel.
Boss, he's Pinocchio. And you remember what Puppettino said.
50 gold pieces to anybody who bring Pinocchio back to Carnival.
Puppettino just put out a public reward to kidnap someone's child and no one cares? I don't care what a scumbag Puppettino is. I just like to watch his content. Can't it be separate? So, luckily for Pinocchio, his plan of wander aimlessly to find Scallywag and Igor ends up working, but only because they accepted Puppettino's dark web kidnapping job assignment. The raccoon and monkey tell Sawdust Brains that Puppettino stole the jewel box after their exchange, so they're off to see the Manjafuko replacement of this movie. But here's the real important team up, Grumblebee and G. Willikers Part 2.
For a little nip off the old butt.
I'd say you had one nip too many.
Once again, I remind you, this was gonna be a series. I am super glad, though, we got a scene of Grumblebee getting drunk on nectar. Now that's something worthy of a Pinocchio sequel.
I'll best be off.
Jiminy Willikers proves to be about as smart as Pinocchio when he decides getting the drunk bee to fly him around is a great idea.
Bugsburg,
My hometown.
They are trying to find Pinocchio, so obviously he takes them to Bugsburg. Anyone goes to Bugsburg Saturday mornings on canceled TV.
my friend Willikers has a lost soldier and he's come for your help.
Help you? We can't even help ourselves.
He's the enemy!
Then, for over 3 minutes, we have to watch the stupid bugs try and battle the gross Toad.
You'll never look for me in here.
was a movie about Pinocchio, right? It takes almost 10 minutes for stupid Pinocchio to appear in his own movie again with how long they focus on the damn bugs because they gotta hype up that spin-off that won't happen before Filmation closes down. Anyway, now we get treated to such hilarity as the raccoon and monkey lazily fishing while they make Pinocchio do all the work on the boat so he can deliver himself to Puppetino. Can we go back to the bugs, actually?
I thought it best that Igor and I undertake the miserable and thankless task of fishing.
You two are the best friends I ever had.
They're the best.
Where do you think we saw your friend? He's on a boat.
See, the whole bug diversion was totally not a waste of time because after over 10 minutes of the plot not moving forward, some random bugs told Willikers and Grumblebee where Pinocchio was. It's not like you could have had Grumblebee actually be useful and good at tracking or something so he and Willikers could have headed straight to the boat right away or anything.
I catch fish! Me too!
They're just delighting in wasting time. After more fishy hilarity, citation needed, Pinocchio saves Scallywag and Igor, at which point they start to feel slightly bad they're about to deliver Pinocchio to have his soul stolen or whatever puppet fucko does.
There's something I may have neglected to tell you. We must turn around.
Not until I get that jewel box.
Well, you see, we lied. He doesn't have it.
Oh, okay. Let's go home then.
Nah, of course, they don't explain, and instead of having a boat getting swallowed by a whale, we have a boat getting swallowed by a bigger boat.
Where are we?
I fear we've sailed into the empire of the night.
And you know what that means, don't you? So, 55 minutes into the movie, after only saying one line off screen, we finally get the return of the titular Emperor of the Night.
Would you like a ride?
Who's apparently cosplaying as Gomez Adams driving a gondola.
Pinocchio! You mustn't go!
Pinocchio, don't go!
I know, look!
Well, we didn't try. Have fun being doomed, you former wooden dummy.
What's down the other way?
Why, that's the land where dreams come true. It's a place where children get anything they wish for.
Yes, there was another major bit from the original story we haven't pointlessly redone in the supposed sequel, the whole Pleasure Island part. Let's have the Emperor of the Night own a bootleg Pleasure Island, which is inside his boat. Guess it's kind of like the Grinch's pocket dimension inside his paraphernalia wagon.
When you've finished, you'll have to sign this little agreement.
I'll do that.
Boy, nothing about this seems familiar. I sure am an idiot.
I guess it's nice, though, that the Emperor of the Night only makes you sign your soul over to him after you've been to his theme park.
Root beer! Root beer! Look! Free root beer! Root beer! Root beer! Hey, give me that root beer!
Gotta say, it seems like the Emperor of the Night has slightly worse theme park rides at his Land of Toys knockoff, where the main ride seems to be sliding down a railing. On the flip side, though, he does provide stronger drinks.
There you go! Try this! What is it?
It is green.
Just drink it. It'll make you feel great. Hey, that feels good.
I'm glad Pinocchio's upgrade to drinking absinthe. It's a bit stronger than beer. Or root beer, even. Guess that'll make Pinocchio see the the green fairy. Perhaps the scariest thing going on Bootleg Island, though, is the kids are playing that highly illegal ball rolling game from Mortal Kombat Conquest.
Hey, don't you talk about us rolling balls. You wind up in the river, dead.
No, we won't.
Could you?
please? Glad we also have a lampwick/candlewick stand-in character for this bit. However, he's not a real character, and Pinocchio leaves him to die even quicker than he did his wickerhead friend.
What's he think I look like? A jackass?
You're on.
Me?
Yes, your fans are waiting.
I have no facts to give about my performance.
You're a star.
Oh good, now the Cheshire Cat is here, and he's brought his weird glowing sexy dancers. This is Pinocchio's star performance, is it? Being confused by everything else on stage? Come say Pinocchio in! Boy doesn't get it!
Wow, that kid sure is confused. I love it.
We have to get him down from there.
We're good guys now, I guess, and we somehow know what the hell's going on. Pinocchio doesn't care though, cause Tinkle is back and giving him wood. Having too much wood was your problem last time, Pinocchio. You'll never learn.
You must pay the price.
Now, I will say that the Emperor of the Night's design is pretty badass. I wish it didn't take until almost the movie is over to finally see him. Especially when he's in the title of the damn movie. I also wish they'd built his presence up a bit more before we got to this point. You could still save the big reveal of his true form for the last act, but at least have the villain that the movie is named after do more before the very end than say, "Hey, set up the carnival, will ya, Puppetino? I'm having a lazy day."
Who are you, Big Daddy?
Oh my gosh, they're all puppets.
It's being invaded by the other world.
This is the world where both dreams and nightmares come true.
See? This guy's amazing! Where's he been?
You'll sign this, and you'll sign it now.
Puppetino, you're really killing the mood. You kind of lessen the Emperor of the Night with your presence.
But I don't know what it says.
It says that you give up your freedom to me.
In retrospect, I should have gotten you to sign before revealing my hand. Oops.
You're the only puppet in the world who has been a real boy. That's why you're so important to the good fairy and to me.
If we're going by the Disney continuity, the Blue Fairy is the one who brought Pinocchio to life in the first place, so he's not any kind of special mystery to her as she did it. So, I guess this means Puppetino doesn't turn people into puppets unless they've already been a puppet? Seems like a really specific power. No wonder he was so excited when Pinocchio stopped by. I thought I'd die before I ever used this stupid power.
The good fairy is very sorry to lose you.
Fatality.
What's the big idea?
Well, that was easy. Guess I kind of overreacted to a bug showing up.
They throw Willikers through time and space, however he just ends up landing right beside the ship, which of course means he has to team up with Grumblebee yet again.
The Emperor gets his power from those who fall prey to their own temptations. We all let our judgment be swayed by our desires.
That's why you're no son of mine, Scallywag. You have failed me for the last time.
Every time someone gives up their freedom, the good fairy grows weaker, and the Emperor grows stronger.
I probably could have warned you about that, but silly me, I didn't think you'd fall for every single trick you did last time.
If the only puppet ever to get his freedom were to lose it might even destroy her.
I kind of like this angle that the Emperor of the Night is using Pinocchio to get to the Blue Fairy, but I wish it amounted to more in the story, as she doesn't even directly get involved with the final battle.
Perhaps my colleague and I could sign in place of the boy. Silence!
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that would work.
I'll never sign. Never!
The Emperor then says he'll let Pinocchio go and even gives him the jewel box, but he's got a little surprise for him in it.
Pinocchio!
Father! What have they done to you?
Pinocchio signs his soul over to free his father and his supposed friends, which makes him all woody again.
You're so strong and powerful. Why did I have to sign?
Only you can choose your fate. Take them all to the dungeon.
The Emperor of the Night, going back on his word, causes Pinocchio to get so angry he goes Super Saiyan Blue.
Oh, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
No! Keep the blue light away!
So, it was supposedly a big deal if Pinocchio signed his freedom away, but the second he did, he got the power to defeat the Emperor. Seems a little contradictory.
You worthless coward.
The Emperor brutally wastes Puppetino, which probably should have happened after he let Pinocchio get away earlier. But what doesn't really make much sense about this is Puppetino turns into a puppet before incinerating. Wasn't Pinocchio being the only puppet who was once a boy a big deal a few minutes ago?
We've got to find a way to open the door!
I know, I'll lie!
Yes, the power of lying will set us free! Which is the only reason he turned into a puppet again, I guess.
Nowhere!
I hate when that happens. So, what did happen to the rest of those kids? They not worth saving and will just die like old candle lamp wick?
I won't sit!
Try telling the truth.
Truth is that I love you very much. I'll do what I'm supposed to do and I'll never, ever, ever get tempted by anything again. At least I'll sure try not to.
Stay tuned for Pinocchio 3. Pinocchio does the same shit again. Again!
Stop!
I can't! Allow me!
And then Grumblebee pulls his guts out with his stinger and dies. Pinocchio then summons a spirit bomb inside the Emperor and blows him the shit up. But Pinocchio could have never gotten those fairy powers without absinthe. He owes his victory all to drinking. And somehow the boat blowing up made Geppetto get a magic mushroom.
Father?
Wow, Pinocchio's a real boy again.
Poor Twinkle. If only we could have saved her too. Did someone say my name? I'm free!
That Pinocchio's getting less special all the time. So, I guess Tinkle's just gonna live with Geppetto as well. And is she a brand new life or did she have a family before this? Who cares? Not getting into that.
The jewel box!
Oh, good. I was the most worried about the item they wanted to sell for a little bit of money. Thank shit that's safe.
I don't think you'll be needing me anymore.
Yeah, you really didn't even try to pretend to stop me from being an idiot in this story, so I guess you aren't needed.
There's a few interesting ideas in here, and I like the darker elements, but I feel like this movie focused on a lot of the wrong things too often and should have done more of an original story. Instead, half of it is a rehash of the original Pinocchio story, and by the time we finally get to the Emperor, it feels like we have to rush to the finish, which also makes it feel a little too easy. But don't worry, Filmation learned their lesson and they all lived happily ever after. it's all female dwarves in this? No review. I refuse.